everyone, back here with another video. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about snake oil. Everybody don't know what that is. I guess it's a term that people say when they're not sure about if it's going to have any effect or it's just something bogus. And this is something that I hear quite a bit. It's I heard it a few years back, and I'm just thinking, what are people talking about? Snake oil. I'm going to tell you what I think of it when I hear this. A lot of times I hear, when people mention that name, snake oil, usually they, about a cable or something like that, or high-end cables, or I usually look at it, kind of with a grain of salt, just because a lot of times people that say that about a product or an item that they're not really sure about, they haven't tested it or even owned it themselves, to even try it to see if it does make a difference, they usually call it snake oil, and that's what I usually find. The end result is they haven't owned it or tried it. Sometimes they're could be too cheap to spend the money to try it, or they're just obviously have a mindset and think already that it doesn't have any effects, so it's just snake oil. So I'm going to give you my take on what I think of some of this stuff, like audio interconnects. Obviously, I've owned some real cheap ones back in the day, and they've made very minimal difference. So sometimes you spend $30 on an interconnect cable, RCA cable or whatever, and it doesn't really make much of a difference from a standard, just out of your box type of dollar store, whatever you want to call it, cable. And I've had that experience before, but anything that I've kind of gone past that in a RCA or interconnect cable, it made a difference. And obviously you move up the chain, and you have to spend more money to get a better quality cable, and depending on your system, how it's going to reveal how good that cable is. I don't think it's any snake oil in that. It's always made a difference. And then as far as speaker cables, people say speaker cables are snake oil. They all sound the same, and I hear the common trend is at least as you have a good 16 or even 18 gauge cable, it's not going to make a difference. Well, I've played around with cables, speaker cables, 30 years, and they do make a difference. I've heard some cheaper cables and that sound pretty good in that, but they do make a big difference. What I found in the speaker cable department, though, seems like you got to spend a little bit more money to hear a difference. If I'm just talking about speaker cables cost $50 or off the roll, just cheaper stuff in general, there is a little bit of difference, but it's not a whole lot, put it that way. When you start talking silver and copper and different configurations and different designs, there is quite a bit of a difference there, and it's all personal preference as well on how it reacts to your speaker. So as far as my personal say on speaker cables, yes, there is it's not snake oil, basically. There is a difference. And then we can get into power cables, which one time we'll talk a bit about, but same thing with power cables. You have your stock power cable on one of your components that you get in the box with the thing, and that does the job. It connects your unit and you get some power. But as far as power cables and that, again, with my experience over the last 25-30 years, I've noticed a difference in that. The first time I've noticed a difference when I had a significant good power amplifier, and I was lent to by a store a power cable to try on it, and I thought, okay, whatever. I didn't really think much of it. Give it a shot. I can't really give you my opinion on it unless I've actually tried the thing. So plugged it in, it decided to clean up things a little bit, and change the sound a little bit more dynamic. So I thought, wow, that's interesting. Took it back to the store and plugged the standard power cable back in, and obviously there was a difference. So I'd say, it was only a couple $100 power cable. It wasn't nothing crazy. It was worth $250 or something like that. So I would say, yeah, same with power cables. It's not snake oil. That some people think is bogus, and that too, that I've heard in the past, is about power line conditioning and power filtering. I've heard comments about this in different videos and different things on the internet that say that power line conditioning or power filtering is bogus, or snake oil too, that it's just snake oil. That's something I experienced, and I would highly recommend. I have another video on power filtering and that, but that's another thing that I've heard that has been labeled that, but I would disagree. Our power to our system is a very important thing. That's the first step. That's what it's kind of like the gasoline in our engine in our car. That's what runs our system, is our hydro, our electricity. So I've heard even some people say you don't need any power line filtering. You just need, on your panel box, you buy one of those surge protectors that protects your whole house, and then you're all good to go. Well, I'd say I disagree, because that doesn't do anything. Just if you get a large surge, it's gonna protect your system from getting fried or whatever. So that's all that's going to do. It's not going to improve your sound system, but some people take that as that's all you need. You don't need power filtering. Well, that's a whole different topic. I have another video on power filtering. But anyways, you got to think about it. A lot of companies that designed our equipment, they really work on the power supplies and all that, trying to fine tune them and dial them in to get the system sounding good. And that's a big part of how our gear sounds is in the power supplies. And you'll even notice that a lot of companies, they'll sell amplifiers, preamps, DACs, and what do they always offer? Upgraded power supplies, outboard power supplies. So that's why they offer that stuff, because it's helping your system. So I would say power line filtering, definitely not snake oil. That's another thing that I would say that I would say is not snake oil. What else would there be out there? There's a lot of things that you can buy, platforms, and for far as eliminating vibrations on your system, amp stands, turntable stands, stuff for your DAC, and different kind of feet that you can put on that eliminate vibrations. And I've experienced some stuff with that, and I would say a lot of that stuff, depending on on a turntable, what it could be minimal to fairly significant. So all that kind of stuff too. I wouldn't say it's snake oil, but obviously if you're going to be using that kind of stuff, you want to have a significant, half decent system. If you're just talking, your system's worth a couple $100 or whatever, I mean, you're wasting your money on that kind of stuff. You'd be better put your money towards your system to upgrade your speakers or your gear or whatever. So same with that stuff. I've noticed over the years it's made a difference. I've had a few different platforms and different stands that I've used in my gear, and I thought, you could hear that difference. It eliminates a little vibration. And I mean, it could be minimal of that, but if you're familiar and your ears are trained to hear your system and you know what it sounds like, and you hear that difference, then power to you, all good. It's not snake oil. You can hear a difference. And as far as hearing all these differences, I mean, we gotta take in mind too that this is just something that I've experienced over the years, that our ears here are shaped different from yours or mine or our next door neighbors or whoever's. All our ears have a different shape to them. And you can even try this at home. Listen to your system or your TV or whatever you got on, and move your earlobes or your ears around a little bit. And just by changing the shape of your ear, you'll hear the sound change. So, you know, when I'm listening to something or you're just listening to something, our ears are shaped different. So we kind of hear it a little different. We perceive it a little bit different because our ears are not all shaped the same. If they were, I mean, we'd all look identical then. So that's kind of one factor too. And there is obviously people genuinely that they can't hear certain frequencies. They might be, you know, impaired in a few frequencies. I've experienced this. I've had in pro audio situations, I've had people that have been setting up, you know, sound for me, and you know, okay, we'd plug a few instruments in and get them to kind of dial them in a little bit in a practice warm up. And I had a guy one time, an acoustic guitar. It was feedbacking at a certain frequency, somewhere around 500 hertz or whatever, but it would be a constant feedback there from the acoustic guitar. And he just genuinely, he could not hear it. I mean, there's a lot of people there that could hear that, but he just could not hear those frequencies feedbacking like that. So it would be kind of like he's impaired in those frequencies. And there's genuinely people that, you know, you're going to change a cable or you might be doing something and they don't notice a difference. They can't hear it. So that's another thing. And it's not to say that it's snake oil, but it's just, you cannot hear it, right? You can genuinely not hear it. So there's that aspect to look at it too. So I mean, we have to take it all what we can hear. If we want to spend the money and buy the product and, you know, see if there is a difference and if you can hear it or if you can't, that's another thing. You know, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's snake oil. If you can't hear it, if somebody else is hearing something, you know, it might be they can hear a little better, they're trained to hear those different things in recordings and stuff. You know, and as we get older too, our hearing isn't as good as was when we were younger. So, you know, same with my hearing there. I can tell it's not as good as it was, you know, 25, 30 years ago. I think back then I could hear a little better, and as we get older, it degrades a little bit. Just like everything, our arms, our limbs, you know, we get older. So, you know, it's all give and take, right? So it's just stuff that we have to try. If it doesn't make a difference in our system, or you or I can't hear it, then, you know, what's the point of purchasing or it having that? We want to spend our money on something that's going to, you know, benefit our system and improve it. So that's, if you're spending money and you don't hear an improvement, then why bother buying it? So that's a good thing to look out when you're, you know, purchasing things, to hear it first sometimes if you can, and sometimes you don't have that opportunity. You're buying it and trying it, and other times, you know, could be just having a peace of mind that you've got something that, you know, you think might help your system, even though it's very minimal difference. For instance, I have speaker cable risers off here. You know, they're off the floor and they eliminate vibrations and you know, something like that is a very minimal difference. It does make a little bit of difference, but it's not huge on the scale, put it that way. You know what I mean? So stuff like that, I would say, you know, you don't want to spend a ton of money on that kind of stuff unless you've got everything, you know, on your system where you want it, and you're just adding little things, kind of like, I don't know what you would want to call them, little knickknacks and stuff like that. But you have to keep it within your budget of what you're doing. And I even recommend this to some of my customers. They are asking me always about interconnects, cables, speaker cables, and all that kind of stuff. And I always recommend to keep it within your budget. You don't want to have a, you know, $2,000 pair of speaker cables on a $1,500 system, or, you know, that kind of stuff. You want to try to, you know, keep it within the same range that you can, because you're going to spend $2,000 on a $1,500 on a set of speaker cables on a, you know, $1,500 system that you have. Well, I think you'd be a lot better to, you know, spend the money on the speakers or an upgrade like that, and spend $200 on a set of speaker cables that you've got left over or something like that. So you got to kind of keep it balanced, because you know, what's a $2,000 or $5,000 pair of speaker cables going to do you on a, you know, a $1,500, $2,000 system? It's, the cables are worth more than the whole system. So there has to be a bit of a balance there. I mean, if you got a super deal on them and, you know, got the speaker cables for $400 for some reason, well, you know, or bought it on the used market, well, hey, go ahead, that's a super deal. And then when you do move up and get a better system, you're going to benefit from all these things. Same with interconnects. You know, you want to keep it within your margin of what system you have. And same thing, you don't want, you know, $1,000 pair of interconnects on a $1,500 system. You want to have it kind of balanced, because you know, spending that much on those cables, you're not going to get out of them. Sure, they're going to sound great. You're not going to get out of them what you could do putting that towards your gear. So there has to be a bit of a balance. And you know, same with me. You listen to the stuff. If it's an improvement, and you know, and you're happy with it, then you buy the product. That's the thing. It's so that's my take on, you know, snake oil things. There's a lot of things out there that they call snake oil and this, but I personally don't like the term, just because, you know, you've already kind of saying it's snake oil or it's bogus before you even try the product. So unless you have experience listening and testing the stuff, not by, you know, measuring it, but by listening with your ears. And if you can hear a difference and there's an improvement, then how could you call it bogus, right? So so that's my take on what I think of, you know, people calling things snake oil and bogus and all that kind of stuff. So I just say thanks for watching the video here today. Hopefully my little take and experience on different cabling and you know, all the stuff that I've experienced over the years can be helpful to you. And thanks everybody for all the comments. And if you want to hit the like down below or subscribe to my channel, you'll get more videos. I have a few more interesting videos coming up here. I have a review on a power filter that's going to be coming up here shortly. You guys might be interested. And so I just like to say God bless and thanks everybody, and enjoy your week.